What's up guys, this is Connor, and today I'm going to show you how to take this and turn it into something like this. If you thought they sounded similar, you're right, they're actually the exact same chord progression, just played in a different way. In this video, I'm going to show you how to take a simple harmonic idea and expand it to different parts of your guitar. We're going to talk about the theory behind it, how to visualize the changes, as well as go over some practice and exercise techniques at the end of the video. So let's get right into it. So let's talk about a few things. Now, what is a C major chord? I mean, what even is a chord? I'm sure we all know what chords sound like, but what are they actually defined as? Basically, a chord is a group of 3 or more notes played together. We can simply define it for now. So a C major chord is the notes C, E, and G. So we can add another C and another E. That's why this shape looks like this on guitar. There are 2 C's, 2 E's, and a G. So what this means is that any combination of the notes C, E, G anywhere on the guitar, doesn't actually matter. They can actually be in any order. C doesn't need to be first. Will always be a C major chord. So in the same way that C major is C, E, G, each of these other chords is made of a group of 3 notes as well. So A minor is A, C, and E. In this shape we have A, E, A, C, E, but it's just 3 notes. There's just, we'd say, redundant chord tones. E minor, E, B, E, G, B, E. It's just the notes E, G, B. And in the G chord we have G, D, G, and B. Just G, B, D. So each of these chords is actually only made of 3 notes. With that in mind, let's take a look at our first example. So you can probably see at the bottom of the screen here, we still have C, A minor, E minor to G. But there's some other stuff going on. So instead of playing this C, I'm choosing to play this C. So I have C, G, and E. This is a full and complete C chord in the same way that this is. So in the chord progression, I want to go to A minor next. Now I could go to this, but I mean, everyone plays that and we already know how to do that. So using the knowledge that I talked about previously, what are the notes in an A minor chord? A, C, E. Ace, you can kind of remember it as. So if I'm changing from C major to A minor, are there any similar notes between the two? Like for example, in the C major chord, there's obviously the note C, but does A minor also have a C note? It does. So if I'm changing from C major to A minor, this note doesn't actually need to go anywhere since it's in both chords already. What about the other guys? What about G? Is there a G in an A minor chord? Well, no, there's an A instead, so G can move up to A. But instead of playing this A way over here, since it's a big stretch for my finger, I can play A over here. So I get C and A. Now the last note, E, is there an E in an A minor chord? There is, yes, it's actually the 5th of the chord. So this doesn't need to change. The only note that needs to move is this guy, going up to A. So the change will look something like this. Now I'm still just playing C major to A minor, in the same way that this is C major to A minor. You may also notice at the bottom of the page it says A minor / C. That's telling us that it's an A minor chord, but C is in the base of the chord. This is something called an inversion. So now we're here. And I need to get to E minor next. So if I'm on this shape, what's the simplest way with the least amount of movement to get to the next chord that I want? So we can go through the same process. Is there a C in an E minor chord? E, G, B are the notes, so no. But the closest one would be C can go down to B. So that's the first move that I can do. So we have... Now what about A? It could have gone up to B, but B is already being taken down here. So instead, A can fall to G, because G is the third of E minor. So now I have this. Now this last note up here, since we were on E, is there an E in an E minor chord? Well, I mean, yeah, it's the root of the chord, so it doesn't need to go anywhere. But there's something I can do, since that's such a big stretch for me. This E is the same as the open string on the bottom, so now I can just play it like this. B, G, E. So far we have this. Okay, we just got one more to do now. So here we are. We need to get to G major next, which is made of the notes G, B, and D. So, can this B stay? Yeah, it can. It's the third of G, so it doesn't need to go anywhere. Can the G stay? Well, yeah, it's the root of the G chord, so it doesn't need to go anywhere either. What about this E note? Well, there's no E, but there is a D, so E can fall down to D here, and I get this shape. B, G, D. It's a G chord, but B is in the bass, which is what the chord name is indicating when it says G/B. So here's the whole progression together one more time. Going to A minor over C. C's in the bass now. Now we're going to E minor over B, so this can fall down to B. I grab its third, G, and then E up top. Now I need to get to G major. This B can stay since it's the third. The G can stay because it's the root, but E is going to fall down to that. It's a nice way to add harmonic complexity and interest without thinking of sevenths and ninths and whatever. We don't actually need them to make interesting chord progressions. And this is just one example of probably hundreds that we can do with just these 4 chords. Let's do another example together. I'll play through it first and then we can talk about how I got to it. Same chords again, C to A minor, E minor to G. I'm just starting on a different way to play C. So I have this shape. It's a little piece of this shape if you know it. I'm just taking that extra C out because I don't need it, because I already have a G, a C, and an E. This is a full C chord. Now we need to get to A minor next. Now if you remember, only one note needed to change because E is the same. It's the third of C and the fifth of A. C can stay because obviously it's the root of C and the third of A. But this G needs to get to an A, and there's one here. So there's my shape, A, C, E. So we got C over G, A minor. We need to get to E minor next now. So we go through the same process. Can this note stay? E. Yeah, it can stay. It's the root of E and the fifth of A. What about this guy? C. No, there's no C's in an E minor chord. We need the note B or G. So this can either fall down here or go up to a G somewhere, but it's pretty far. I can either grab that G or that G. So I'll stick with this E, that B. This A, well, since I need G, I can go back down to G. So I've got E, B, G. There it is, E minor. C major, G in the bass, A minor, root in the bass, E minor, G in the bass. Now we need to get to G. So, can G stay? Yeah, it's the root. Can B stay? Yeah, it's the third. Okay, that's easy. What about this guy? E. We're missing a note. We're missing the D. There's one right below E. And there it is, G. So here's the progression again. And I can extend it into the other ones we made. Okay, I've got one more example for you guys. I'll play it and then we can talk about it. Okay, so same as before, we're going to start on a C major chord. I've got this E, I've got this C, and this G. I actually love this chord. We'd say C over E. Okay, same process. Now, basically, all we need to do is change G to A, because that's what we did the previous time. So I need to find that G. There's an A way up here. But that's going to be almost impossible to play. So luckily, this note A is also here. So I can play the chord like this now, with some string skipping. Now we need to get to E minor. So what do? We go through the process. E, can it stay? Yes. It's the root of E, obviously. C, well, we need a B. There's one there. But this A is going to have to go down to G. So then we get this huge shape. Can't even play it. That's like a handbreaker, and it's not actually practical. But I can also play that chord just like this. It's the same arrangement of the notes. I've got a root to a fifth to a third. Even though the change doesn't look smooth, it is actually the same change as I just did. So now I need to get to G. Can E stay? No, it's going to have to move. What about B? Yeah, it can stay. What about G? Yeah, it can stay. So these two guys can stay. But this E needs to move to a D. So I could grab that. It's kind of wide on my hand, so I can take this D and put it there instead, which is the shape I got previously. And that's the change. So C, A minor, going to E minor, going to G major. To C. These types of exercises have been some of the most useful and helpful that I've personally ever done on the guitar, which is why I want to share them with you. There are no shortcuts to this. It really just takes the work and the time and actually doing the practices and the exercises to help you think in this way. This is the whole point. The mindset, how we approach the instrument, how we think about what's going on. We want to think as little as possible to give us the maximum amount of creativity on our instrument. So for the exercise to work on this kind of thing, you can take a basic chord progression, just like I did. I chose some chords in the key of C. You can do whatever you want to do. Make sure that they are only major or minor chords, 4 chords per progression, just like I did. And when you're doing your exercise, you can have only 3 notes per chord, just like I did. So then you're going to want to start on the first chord and change to the next chord with as little movement as possible. So think about what notes are in your chord progression, and you can write these down previous to doing the exercises so that you know what notes you're moving to. Then you can compose a new progression using this method. The benefits: you get to learn the notes of the musical alphabet, how to see where these notes are on your guitar, understanding chord shapes, and you can also add to a jam without taking up space. I'm sure you know what it's like when everyone's strumming a C major chord, but now you can add a C major chord which is just a little bit different, filling that space without taking away from everyone else. And that's a wrap on this video. Let me know if you have any questions below. I'm happy to answer them there. Or if you're interested in any other type of guitar content. Thanks for checking this out. Hope it helps. See you next time.